Ladies and gentlemen, champions and future millionaires, if you woke up this morning breathing, you already won the lottery. The question is, are you cashing in on it? See, I came here to remind you of a truth so powerful, the moment you understand it, it can and it will change your life. You know, I learned something powerful the hard way. Success doesn't start with your hands, it starts with your head. I spent years thinking the reason I wasn't winning in life was because I didn't have the right opportunities, the right connections, the right background. I thought if I just had more money, I could do more. If I had the right education, doors would open for me. If I had a better start, I'd have a better finish. But what I didn't realize was that even if someone dropped the keys to the kingdom in my lap, I would have found a way to lock myself out because my mindset wasn't prepared for success. See, here's the truth. Your mind is a magnet, and whether you realize it or not, it's always pulling something into your life. It's pulling problems or pulling possibilities, pulling scarcity or pulling abundance, pulling struggle or pulling solutions. The real difference between those who rise and those who stay stuck is the programming running on the inside. I used to wonder why two people could grow up in the same neighborhood, face the same struggles, have the same setbacks, and yet one ends up living a life of purpose and prosperity while the other stays trapped in excuses and survival mode. The difference wasn't their conditions, it was their conclusions. One decided to believe in limitation, the other decided to believe in potential. Your beliefs are the architects of your results. When I finally understood that my outer world was a reflection of my inner world, I stopped trying to fix the fruit and started working on the root. Because what's growing in your life is a direct result of the seeds you've been planting, not with your hands, but with your thoughts. I tell people all the time, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. You don't attract success by wishing for it, you attract success by becoming the kind of person who deserves it. It's like this, if you take a thermostat and set it to 70 degrees, the room will adjust to match the setting. If the window's open and cold air comes in, the heater kicks on. If the sun comes out and the room overheats, the air conditioner brings it back down. Why? Because the thermostat doesn't care about the conditions, it cares about the setting. And that's exactly how your mindset works. Life will throw you cold days and hot seasons, but if your inner setting is programmed for success, your habits, decisions, and opportunities will always self-correct to match the expectation. Once I understood this, I stopped waiting for my life to change and started changing the way I thought about life. I began to hold success in my mind as if it were already mine, not as a distant hope, but as a present identity. I began to see problems as invitations for growth instead of evidence of failure. I began to view lack as temporary, not permanent. I stopped thinking like a victim of circumstances and started thinking like a creator of outcome. And here's the funny thing, when you shift your mindset, people start treating you differently. Opportunities start showing up where there used to be obstacles. The world starts reflecting back the energy and expectation you send out. It's not coincidence, that's the law of attraction and action. And it all starts in the 6 inches between your ears. The biggest upgrade you'll ever make in your life isn't in your bank account, your business strategy, or your resume. It's in your mind. When you change the way you think, you change the way you live. Success isn't something you stumble into, it's something you magnetize by becoming the person success is already looking for. I want you to understand something that changed my life when I finally stopped ignoring it. Words are not just sounds, and they're not just sentences. Words are seed. Every single word you speak is a creative force. Whether you realize it or not, you are literally writing the blueprint of your future every time you open your mouth. The problem is, most people don't understand the power that's in their tongue, so they walk around cursing their own lives and wondering why nothing ever seems to work out. When I look back at the lowest points in my life, the days when my bank account was in the negative, the days when my confidence was bankrupt, the days when my dreams felt 1,000 miles away, I can see clearly now that my words were lining up perfectly with my circumstances. I wasn't speaking success, I wasn't speaking faith, I wasn't speaking growth, I was speaking fear, frustration, and failure. And guess what? Life gave me more of what I spoke. There's a reason the Bible says death and life are in the power of the tongue. Your mouth is either the construction crew or the demolition crew for your future. Every time you say, I can't, your subconscious says, that's correct. Every time you say, nothing ever works for me, your circumstances say, let's prove you're right. Your words send instructions to your life, and your life obeys. And you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be lucky. But you do have to start mastering the language of success. You have to start speaking about the future as though it's already unfolding in your favor. You've got to say it until you see it, because the truth is you will never rise above the level of conversation you allow yourself to live in. When I started shifting my language, things started shifting around me. I stopped saying I'm broke. I started saying I'm in the process of building wealth. I stopped saying I never catch a break. I started saying everything is working together for my good. I stopped saying that's impossible. I started asking, how can I make it possible? My words began creating new opportunities long before my reality caught up. And the beauty of this is that it works both ways, whether you believe it or not. You're always creating. The question is, are you creating a future you want, or are you reinforcing the one you want to escape from? Your words are the architect, your beliefs are the blueprint, and your actions are the builders. But if the architect draws up the wrong design, the builders will construct the wrong building every single time. I meet people all the time who wonder why their life isn't changing, and the first thing I pay attention to isn't what they do, it's what they say. You can always tell the size of someone's future by the size of their conversation. If all you talk about is your problems, you're going to keep getting more of them. If all you talk about is lack, you're going to experience more scarcity. But if you start talking about solutions, if you start declaring abundance, if you start speaking victory, your life will have no choice but to shift and match the power of your declaration. Words create worlds. Your mouth is a steering wheel and your life is the car. Wherever your words go, your life will follow. You don't get what you want, you get what you call for. You don't experience what you hope for, you experience what you speak over and over again until your belief and your reality collide. When you begin to speak the language of success, even before the evidence shows up, you are training your mind to expect a different outcome. You are telling your future, I'm on the way, and that future starts moving toward you little by little, piece by piece, until one day you wake up living in the life you once spoke into existence. One of the biggest lies people buy into when they first hear about the law of attraction is this idea that all you've got to do is sit in a quiet room, close your eyes, visualize a better life, and wait for the universe to drop success on your front porch like an Amazon Prime delivery. Let me tell you something. The law of attraction is not some magic trick. It's not wishful thinking dressed up in fancy words. Faith is powerful, but faith without action is like having a car with no gas. It might look good sitting in the driveway, but you aren't going anywhere. I remember when I was struggling, sitting in my little house, reading all the books, listening to all the tapes, writing down affirmations like my life depended on it. I believed in the power of my mind. I believed in the principles, but I wasn't moving. I was treating faith like a lottery ticket, hoping it would scratch off and pay out one day. But here's what I learned. Faith is not a ticket, it's a tool. And tools are only useful when you pick them up and put them to work. You can have all the belief in the world, but if you don't pair it with action, you are building castles in the sky. And on the flip side, you can grind yourself into the ground, hustle until your eyes bleed, but if you don't believe you're worthy of success or expect good things to happen, you will find a way to sabotage every opportunity you get. Faith and action were designed to work together like two legs, walking you toward your day. You can't limp into success on belief alone, and you can't outrun your limitations on effort alone. The moment I shifted from passive hope to active faith, things started changing fast. I didn't wait for conditions to be perfect because they never are. I didn't wait until I felt ready because most of the time I didn't. I took what I had, the knowledge, the vision, the tiny little seed of belief, and I started moving. I made calls when I was scared. I showed up when I felt like hiding. I took risks even when the fear was louder than my confidence. And every step I took forward sent a message to the world that I was serious, and the world responded. See, faith without action is just fantasy. And action without faith is exhausting because you're grinding with no fuel in your tank. But when you put the two together, when you believe so deeply that you move like it's already done, that's when doors open. That's when ideas show up. That's when the right people cross your path. It's not because the world suddenly changed. It's because you changed. You stopped waiting and you started walking. You stopped hoping and you started building. I've seen it over and over, not just in my life, but in the lives of people I've coached. The moment someone shifts from sitting on the sidelines, waiting for life to get better, to stepping on the field and playing to win, everything else starts to fall in place. Opportunities that were invisible before start to appear. Skills you didn't even know you had begin to develop. Doors that were locked start swinging open, not because the lock disappeared, but because you finally got up and knocked. That's the real formula. Vision gives you direction, belief gives you fuel, and action gets you moving. You've got to hold the picture of your desired future in your mind. You've got to speak about it with confidence, but then you've got to move as if it's already yours. That's when your faith becomes a magnet pulling the pieces of success into your path, one action step at a time. And when you live like that, when your belief is so strong that it forces you to act and your actions are so bold that they reinforce your belief, momentum kicks in. And momentum is the bridge between the life you've got and the life you want. Faith-driven action doesn't just attract success, it builds it, brick by brick, until what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. One of the most overlooked, underestimated forces in the universe is gratitude. And I'm not talking about some shallow, surface level, social media kind of gratitude where people post a cute quote about being thankful once a year around Thanksgiving. I'm talking about deep, rooted, unshakable gratitude. The kind that can change your life before your circumstances ever do. The kind that tunes your spirit to abundance even when your surroundings are still shouting lack. When I was broke, and I mean flat broke, sitting on the floor wondering how I was going to pay the light bill, wondering how I was going to feed my family, I learned something that turned everything around for me. I realized I couldn't wait for things to get better before I became grateful. I had to be grateful while they were still bad. I had to find a way to appreciate the little I had, or I'd never be trusted with more. Because here's the truth. If you can't celebrate the small, you'll never steward the big. If you don't honor the few dollars you've got, you won't handle the millions when they come. Gratitude is not a response to success. Gratitude is the invitation for success. People often wonder why it seems like their life is stuck on repeat, cycling through the same problems, the same setbacks, the same scarcity year after year. And one of the biggest reasons is that they've trained their mind to only notice what's missing, what's broken, what's wrong. If you spend your whole life scanning for problems, your life will faithfully deliver more of them. Gratitude flips that script. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's available, from what's missing to what's working, from what's broken to what's still beautiful. When you wake up in the morning and start counting your blessings before your burdens, your energy changes. Your perspective shifts, and the world somehow starts shifting with it. You start noticing opportunities you were blind to before. You start seeing potential where you used to see dead ends. Your conversations become more uplifting. Your ideas flow easier. Your relationships strengthen. Gratitude opens doors, not just emotionally, but physically and financially. I tell people all the time, what you appreciate appreciates. When you practice genuine gratitude, you send out a signal to the universe, to God, to life itself that says, I'm ready for more, not from a place of greed, but from a place of stewardship. When you can be thankful for the small house, you'll be trusted with the big house. When you can be thankful for your first struggling client, you'll be trusted with a room full of premium clients. When you can be thankful for that one opportunity, even if it doesn't look like much, you open the door for more opportunities to follow. Gratitude is like fertilizer for growth. It multiplies the good in your life even before your eyes can see it. It rewires your brain to stop expecting loss and start expecting increase. It helps you weather storms that would have broken you before because you've trained yourself to focus on what's still standing, not what fell apart. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to wait for something big to happen to start practicing this. You can start today, right now, wherever you are. Be thankful for your health, even if it's not perfect. Be thankful for the people in your life, even if they're not perfect. Be thankful for the income you have, even if it's not enough yet. That attitude of gratitude puts you on the frequency of abundance. And once you're on that frequency, success has no choice but to find you. Because gratitude doesn't just change how you feel, it changes who you become. And the person you become determines what you attract. If there's one lesson I wish I would have learned earlier, it's this. Your environment is either feeding your future or starving it. A lot of people underestimate just how powerful their surroundings are, but the truth is you can have the best mindset, the strongest work ethic, and the biggest dreams, but if you're planted in the wrong environment, you'll struggle to grow. Just like a seed, it doesn't matter how much potential you carry inside. If you plant yourself in dry, toxic soil, you will never bear the fruit you were created to produce. I've seen it in my own life. There were seasons where I felt stuck, not because I lacked ambition, not because I lacked skill, but because I was surrounded by the wrong conversations, the wrong associations, and the wrong atmospheres. I was around people who were always complaining, always doubting, always waiting for someone else to change their lives. And let me tell you something. You can't stay in an environment like that for long without it rubbing off on you. Their energy starts to lower your expectations. Their small thinking starts to shrink your vision. Their fear starts to infect your faith. You've got to be intentional about where you plant yourself. You've got to guard your atmosphere like your future depends on it, because it does. I tell people all the time, if you hang around 5 broke, bitter people, guess who's going to be number 6? If you spend all your time with people who think small, talk small, and live small, you'll start shrinking your own dreams just to fit in. And you were never designed to fit in. You were designed to stand out. But when you position yourself in an environment of growth, everything changes. When you surround yourself with people who think bigger, believe stronger, and expect more, your own level starts to rise, often without you even realizing it. Their language sharpens your thinking. Their mindset challenges your limits. Their habits pull you forward. Growth is contagious, but so is mediocrity, and you've got to choose which one you want to catch. And you got to choose which one you want to catch. Sometimes the hardest part of success isn't learning new strategies, it's unlearning old environments. Sometimes you've got to be willing to outgrow some relationships, outgrow some rooms, and even outgrow some routines. Because the version of you that's comfortable where you are right now is not the same version of you that will handle the success you say you want. You've got to stretch. You've got to step into circles that make you uncomfortable, because comfort zones don't produce champions. Growth zones do. And I'm not just talking about people. I'm talking about what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, and what you allow into your mental space every single day. Your environment isn't just physical, it's digital, it's emotional, it's spiritual. You've got to protect your environment the way a gardener protects good soil. Pulling out the weeds, pruning what's dying, and making room for new growth. The right environment will challenge you, support you, and stretch you all at the same time. It will make you uncomfortable, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally being pushed towards something right. That tension, that stretch, that pressure, it's a sign that growth is happening, because you'll never step into the level of success you were created for if you insist on staying in the level of comfort you've settled for. Your environment is either reinforcing your excuses or reinforcing your excellence. It's either confirming your fears or cultivating your faith. And once you realize that, you stop waiting for life to change, and you start changing the spaces you allow yourself to occupy. Success is attracted to people who live, breathe, and operate in an environment of growth. And the sooner you build that environment, the sooner success will feel right at home in your life. One of the biggest breakthroughs you'll ever have on your journey to success is understanding that your results will never rise higher than your self-image. Your identity is the thermostat for your entire life, and until you upgrade the way you see yourself, you will always sabotage your own progress, even if the opportunities are right in front of you. Because success isn't something you achieve, it's something you align with. The law of attraction isn't about chasing success, it's about becoming the person success is already looking for. For a long time, I was stuck in a loop, working hard, hustling, grinding, doing everything the books and seminars told me to do. But deep down, I still saw myself as that broke kid who couldn't get ahead, and no matter how hard I worked, my life always circled back to match the picture I had of myself on the inside. If you see yourself as average, you will settle for average. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will repel opportunities that require confidence. If you see yourself as stuck, you'll stay stuck, no matter how many doors open around you. It wasn't until I changed the internal script, the quiet conversations I was having with myself, that the external results started shifting. I stopped identifying as someone trying to succeed, and I started identifying as someone who was designed for success. I stopped thinking like a struggler and started thinking like a solution bringer. I stopped seeing myself as someone life was happening to, and I started seeing myself as someone who could shape outcomes by intention. And the funny thing is, once your identity shifts, your actions start to follow automatically. You don't have to force discipline when you believe you're the kind of person who follows through. You don't have to beg for confidence when you believe you're the kind of person who belongs in the room. You don't have to fake boldness when you see yourself as a leader. The identity leads and the behavior follows. That's why so many people get stuck in a cycle of motivation without transformation. They try to change their actions without first changing their identity. When you believe you are worthy of abundance, you'll start making decisions that reflect that belief. You won't hesitate to invest in yourself. You won't settle for relationships that drain you. You won't stay in places that shrink you. You'll move differently. You'll speak differently. You'll show up differently. Not because you're forcing yourself to, but because your identity has already shifted into alignment with the future you desire. Success is not something outside of you waiting to be captured. Success is something inside of you waiting to be expressed. Your external world will always reflect your internal identity, like a mirror. If you want the mirror to show you something different, you don't stand there and beg the reflection to change. You change yourself, and the reflection has no choice but to catch up. And the beauty of identity alignment is that it creates consistency. You no longer have to rely on bursts of inspiration or streaks of luck. When your identity is aligned with growth, excellence, and abundance, you naturally attract and maintain the level of success you were designed for. You stop chasing success and start living it because it becomes a part of who you are, not just something you want, but something you expect and something you express in every choice, every conversation, and every action you take. If you want to unlock true, lasting success, the kind that doesn't fade, the kind that doesn't fall apart under pressure, you've got to flip the script on how you approach life and business. Most people walk around thinking, what can I get? What's in it for me? How do I make sure I'm paid, I'm promoted, I'm recognized? But the secret to attracting success isn't in chasing rewards. It's in creating value. The real power comes when you stop focusing on what you can extract and you start focusing on what you can contribute. I learned a long time ago that money is nothing but a certificate of appreciation. The more value you create for other people, the more the world wants to appreciate you back. And the way it shows that appreciation is often through money, opportunities, connections, and open doors. But the order matters. Serve first, receive second. You've got to sow before you reap. You've got to pour in before you expect anything to pour back. Too many people are standing in front of empty fields demanding a harvest, but they never took the time to plant any seeds. I remember when I was first starting out in business, I was so focused on closing the deal that I forgot the whole point was to solve someone's problem. I was chasing commissions, not creating solutions. And you know what? People can feel that. They can sense when you're there for their benefit versus when you're only there for yours. The moment I stopped showing up to get and started showing up to give, everything changed. Clients came easier, referrals came faster, income grew bigger, not because I got lucky, but because I got aligned with the way success really works. When you approach every conversation, every opportunity, every challenge with the mindset of how can I serve, how can I help, how can I solve, you become irresistible in the marketplace. You stop competing and you start creating. You stop chasing after crumbs and you start baking your own bread. That shift in focus moves you from scarcity thinking to abundance living, because you start realizing that value is infinite, and the more you give, the more you grow. And the thing about serving first is that it forces you to elevate. It forces you to develop skills, to sharpen your mindset, to stretch your capacity, because in order to truly serve people well, you've got to become a person of substance. You can't give what you don't have. So the moment you commit to serving, you also commit to growing. And the beautiful part is the market, the world, and even your relationships will reward you in direct proportion to the value you deliver. When you shift from a consumer mindset to a contribution mindset, you stop waiting for opportunities to show up and you start becoming the opportunity for someone else. And when you become the opportunity, people will seek you out. Success will seek you out. Resources will seek you out. You won't have to chase them. They'll be drawn to you, because the law of sowing and reaping doesn't fail. When you lead with service, you stop worrying about how fast can I win and you start focusing on how well can I help. And the funny thing is, the more you help, the faster you win. Serving is the shortest path to success, and it's also the most fulfilling. Because when you add real value to the lives of others, you don't just change your bank account, you change your legacy.